Hey guys, in this video we're making these beautiful beaded bracelets. They're made by simply braiding the wire, and we've made a little hook and loop clasp to secure our bracelet. You can use whatever colours of beads you like. You could do it all the same colour or use 3 different colours like I've done with this bracelet here. This really is a beautiful bracelet design that's something a little bit different. For our design today we've got 20 gauge dead soft silver wire and our basic jewellery making tools. For our braided bracelet today, we need one 30cm length and one 60cm length. So we just measure and cut both of those lengths. Once you've got your 2 lengths of wire cut, we're going to start with the longer piece. So grabbing that 60cm length of wire and placing the ends together, following it back down to the middle at the other end and making a bend in the wire here. We can start to straighten these wires out as well, just so they're coming down in the same direction. Now we're going to make a nice small loop on this bend here, and this will be the loop side of our clasp. Now place something small and round into the middle of that bend so that we can start to form this wire around in this small loop shape. You don't want to bend your wire too fiercely or it will create a weak spot and then it may break. So just work nice and gently and slowly with your wire, working this little loop smaller and into the right position. Once you've got a nice small bend there with the wires coming down, we grab each side there and gently twist it inwards. This brings those wires together at the bottom of our loop there. You can gently work with your pliers and bring those wires together, working with everything until you're happy with your loop and your wires coming down. You want a little bit of a hole inside your loop here and these wires coming down straight and sitting next to each other. Once you're happy with your loop, we're going to secure our last piece of wire on so that we've got 3 wires coming down to braid. So we're going to wrap it around these wires here at the base of our loop. So just making a small bend in the end of our wire and then holding it onto those wires there at the bottom of the loop. I find it's best with some pliers to come around then and wrap the smaller end of the wire upwards towards the loop, bringing it around nice and tight and tidy a couple of times to make a nice secure connection. I like at least 3 or 4 loops around, so I also wrap this end around as well, just to make sure that I've got my 3 or 4 loops and they're really nice and tight and sitting next to each other. So take your time crimping these down nice and tight, bringing those wires around and making sure they're all nice and tight together. Now one of these sides will be the inside of your bracelet and the other will be the outside. So try and have at least one side be nice and tidy for the outside of your bracelet. On the inside, we can lift this little tail up and cut it nice and short, crimping it down tight so there's no sharp edges. And this will be the inside of my bracelet. Now, whichever direction this wire that you wrapped around comes off in, keep it in that same direction. So mine comes across to the right, and then I'm just going to space the other 2 wires out as well so that we can start our braid. Now at this point we're going to place our beads onto the wires. So if you're using 3 different colours, you place 1 colour onto each wire. We're using 6mm gemstone beads, and so we need about 8 beads on each wire, depending on how tight we pull the wires in our braid. So 8 on each wire to definitely have enough. If you're making your bracelet the same colour the whole way along, then just put 8 beads onto each wire. Once your 8 beads are on, just place a little bend in the end of your wire so the beads don't fall off. Okay, so we've got beads on all 3 strands of wire. Now we always use the bead in the center position. So in this case it's these light purple ones, so leaving 1 bead at the top and then bringing the right side wire over and across so it's in the middle position. Now we bring the left side wire over and across into the middle position, gently bending those wires around that bead at the top. Now the bead on the center wire is the one that we use, so this case it's the darker colour, so sliding 1 bead to the top there. Now we bring the right side wire over and across to the middle, gently bending it around that bead. Now the left side wire over and across to the middle, gently bending it. Now we've got this lighter blue coloured bead in the centre wire, so sliding 1 bead up. Right side wire comes around, over and into the middle position, gently bending that wire. Left side wire comes around, over and into the middle position. I try and hold it all quite tight and straight at the top here, and you'll see your beautiful braid start to form. So this light purple's in the middle position, so sliding that 1 bead up, right side wire across to the middle, left side wire across to the middle, bending them around those beads at the top there. Now the middle position is the dark one. So we just repeat this same process, sliding the bead on the middle wire upwards, and then just doing a plain old simple 3-strand braid. It is a little bit trickier working with wire, but it is actually quite a simple design. Once you get started, you'll see exactly where your wires need to be and which beads you slide up. You just want to try and keep that braid heading down nice and straight, and keep the same sort of tension on your wire the whole way along so that your bracelet is going to look the same the whole way around. Now we just continue braiding all the way down until your bracelet is at your desired length. I'm going to braid down to about 18 centimeters. And then we put the other half of our clasp on, so that brings it up to about 19 or 20 centimeters in total. Okay, so you can see my last bead sits at about 18 centimeters. Now we're going to attach a hook for our clasp. So bring the wires across in the directions they're already heading. We want 1 wire on each side and 1 wire coming up the center. Now we can take any extra beads off. If you're short on wire here, don't snip the wire off. But I can see I've got plenty, so I'll just snip that to get those beads off. Now we're going to place our hook onto the center wire. Now first thing we're going to do is make sure our center wire is coming right up the middle. So bending it across and then placing a sharp bend so that that wire comes right up the center of our bracelet. Now to create a loop is really quite simple. The more you do these, the better you get as well, and you start to figure out exactly how you like it. I make mine between 2.5 and 3 centimeters long. So with my pliers, grabbing that wire on the 2.5 centimeter mark, bending the wire around the round nose pliers and back down against the wire. Now we want this nice and close together, so just grab your pliers and gently bend that wire so that it's only a really small bend at the end and the wires are sitting next to each other. You want this loop to be nice and flat. Now we can cut this little tail off at the top of the bead there. It doesn't need to be any longer than that. Now you want to take note of which side is the inside and which is the outside of your braid. Now we're going to wrap the last 2 wires around the base of this hook to secure it in place. So one wire is going to come around one way, gently bringing that around the bottom there, making sure to catch both wires on that hook part, and that's going to help secure them in place. Just working gently and slowly with your wire. So I bring that around 2 full loops. You want to try and match this end with the other end as well if you can. And then cut these tails off on what will be the inside side of your bracelet. So crimping that tail in nice and tight. And now bringing the other wire around. This comes around the opposite way. Nice and tight and tidy as well to secure these wires in place. Cutting this tail off nice and short as well and crimping it in tight so there's no sharp edges. Alright, so that's pretty much your finished bracelet. The last thing to do is sort of bend it into shape and just bend our hook into the finished position. So gently bending your wire bracelet around so that that tidier part of your clasp is sitting on the outside. Now it's up to you whether you bend your hook inwards and it sits under. See, like this one here, I like to have my clasp sitting under. I find it's a bit tidier. But you can also bend it outwards if you wanted to. Now for our hook, we come in with our round nose pliers and grab it just over halfway along, closer to the end than to the bracelet. And gently twisting our wire inwards to form the hook shape. Making sure it's all lined up nice and straight. I like to bend the very tip of the end as well, just so it makes it easier to place through the loop on the other end. So just bend that out a little bit. You can play with it now as you try it on and just see how it fits and how it goes in together. So if it goes on nice and easy, then you're probably good to go. But you can adjust it until it's fitting how you want it to. It should be able to pop on and off nice and easily and stay in place. So there's your beautiful braided beaded bracelet.